Minutes starts now.
It's farcical. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what a White House lawyer says about a Washington Post report of chaos among staffers nervous after the first indictments in the special counsel probe into Russian campaign interference. Chief of Staff John Kelly told Fox's Laura Ingraham,
the vast majority of the staff would have nothing to do with any of this kind of thing, so there's no worry about it. Everyone is just doing the things that they were hired to do.
This as former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort and his associate Rick Gates were placed under house arrest, charged with money laundering and other crimes for their dealings with Ukraine. A former campaign policy advisor George Papadopoulos pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his Russian contacts. Republicans in Congress don't want all this to derail their tax agenda. Fox's Jared Halpern live at the Capitol.
Several top Republicans tried to keep the focus on legislative priorities.
That's why I said this topic.
Let me just ask you this.
Anybody have any questions on this topic?
Number 2 Senate Republican John Cornyn at a news conference about judicial confirmation votes. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell ducked out of that event before questions were asked. House Republicans release a long-awaited tax bill tomorrow. The vice president will spend much of his day at the Capitol meeting with lawmakers today. Speaker Paul Ryan has an Oval Office sit-down this afternoon with the president. Dave.
Jared, there's talk Republicans may keep some state and local tax deductions in the bill. The plan to get rid of them in tax reform angered GOP lawmakers from higher tax states. He's not going to Guantanamo. A Libyan militant captured by the U.S. will be taken to Washington to face charges, suspected of playing a role in the Benghazi attack that killed our ambassador and 3 other Americans.
Any intelligence that he happens to have, it would be nice to know that. But, of course, we want him to see justice.
That's Republican Senator Joni Ernst. Classes are canceled at the University of Utah today amid a search for the gunman who carjacked and killed someone near the campus in Salt Lake City. Fox News. Fair and balanced.
Hey, yeah, this is Petco. And your dog just called? This is awkward, but he wanted me to let you know we just lowered our prices on dog food and that he prefers something a little healthier.
At Petco, we believe price should never be a barrier to better nutrition. That's why we have new everyday low prices. Visit Petco today to chat with one of our nutrition specialists or go to petco.com to see for yourself.
Also, he said he'd really appreciate it if you would stop doing that weird thing in front of the mirror.
Hey there.
What's up, bruh?
Hello.
Aloha.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Hola.
Hi.
It takes a lot of voices to create the sound of us. The Y welcomes all of them with open arms. From career readiness to safe spaces, the Y is there, no matter who we are. Now, more than ever, they need your support. Donate to your local Y today. The Y, for a better us.
Read by members of the Y.
Americans are essentially split down the middle on whether NFL players should be ordered to stand during the national anthem, according to a new Seton Hall sports poll, but they're more divided when it comes to President Trump's involvement in the matter.
55% of the American public said that it was inappropriate for the president to ask people to sign a petition about the kneeling for the national anthem. 37% said yes, it was appropriate.
2 New Jersey high school football refs are blocked from officiating any more games this season because they walked off the field Friday night when players kneeled during the anthem. The state attorney general, on behalf of the state police, has not yet decided to appeal a ruling that NJSP pay stubs and overtime data must be given to an open records advocate who sued for the records. State police officials say that would pose a security threat. Since his January appearance on Ask the Governor, Chris Christie has publicly counted down the days left in his term. Now we know what he'll be doing on night 1 off the job, January 17th. He and wife Mary Pat have scored tickets to Springsteen on Broadway. I'm Patrick Lavery. This is the Town Square News Network.
Mostly cloudy skies, dry weather, and cool temperatures for your Halloween Tuesday. High temperatures today, 55 to 60 degrees. Still a bit windy this afternoon with gusts possibly reaching 30 miles an hour. It's going to get quite cold and even frosty tonight. Lows mostly in the mid to upper 30s with increasing clouds eventually. Mostly cloudy skies tomorrow with light showers possible. Highs again only mid-50s, but by Thursday we're warming up back to near 70 degrees. More clouds than sun on Thursday with an isolated shower chance as well. I'm meteorologist Dan Zero.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Chuck Malamut's here, and his champion is his co-host this hour, his champion for this week. It's true. Chuck will admit it in just a moment. This portion of Hurley in the Morning brought to us by Chuck Malamut, the official, the exclusive financial genius for the Hurley in the Morning program for 26 years. This is Chuck's regular program, all about your financial matters. Chuck is the managing director. He leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. The following program is presented by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member SIPC. If you feel it's appropriate, Chuck, you may call me champion this hour.
Good morning, Harry. Good morning, Kirk.
He didn't say champion. I guess. Good morning, comrade. I guess it's not appropriate. I said if it's appropriate.
No,
refer
Harry.
to me as your champion.
For the week, yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Okay, call me current champion.
But
then.
1 week end does not make an entire season. So
you have noticed I've been making my move for a number of weeks now. This is very reminiscent of last year, Kirk, when I started slow. See, I'm a long distance runner. I don't quit.
You know, Kirk, I oftentimes say to myself, sometimes things best said or not said at all.
I see the finish line, and I work my way through a very long season. And like last year when I became the first person ever. I know Chuck's giving me the hand
like
signal. It's got the hand going like a mouth blabbing. But I did win the regular season championship last year. I am the defending champion.
Yes, you are, Harry. Let's talk.
We'll get to the financial show in a moment. I won't hold this time against you. You'll get this time. You'll recapture this time. It's like Congress. You'll ask to be, motion for reconsideration. And I also won the playoff season, Kirk. No one's ever done that before. Anyhow,
but Harry, it's amazing that no recognition is given to the other players that are in front of you for the season. So we'll leave it at that. But anyway, Kirk, before you go, I do want to throw this out because I heard this as recently as yesterday that there were rumors out there with respect to raising the rate on the rich.
That is correct.
The rich people.
That is correct.
40 to 42 to 44%.
Bad idea.
So I just wanted to make sure I did not hear that incorrectly.
You heard it absolutely correctly, Chuck, and this is all part of Bizarro world because there is this false premise that would be only fair to do that.
Based on envy.
Right, which would not be good. Would not be good at all. Yeah. Everybody should come along. If we're going to improve the tax code, if we're going to lower taxes, we should do it for everyone.
In a perfect world, you're absolutely correct. I was pleasantly pleased to hear that it sounds like the Jersey, California, New York
will block it.
To remove the property taxes as far as a deductible item is concerned. You can't do that.
You can't do it, and they won't do it, and the votes won't be there to do it, and that's why I didn't even really seriously entertain that. Just because somebody said something to float a trial balloon at one point, people have just decided like that is like absolutely agreed upon and decided when it is not, and the votes aren't there to pass it. So I've never really worried about that too much at all. One thing I do know, though, what percentage of the American people pay zero taxes?
I think in my recollection it's over 50%.
Correct. So that's also, when you look at that, that's part of the game where whenever you look at numbers where people compare, that rich should pay even more, you've got half the playing field has no skin in the game. So they absolutely vote for people to pay more because they're paying none. But if you said to them, you're going to have to start paying a lot more than zero, they wouldn't like that either. So it's a shame that this becomes sort of a divide and conquer type of situation. But hopefully we're going to get meaningful tax reform because I think that 2018 will be a very challenging year if we don't.
It will be, and then the age-old question comes, and no one seems to be able to answer it, who's going to ultimately pay for it? At the end of the day, you look at, our deficit and the fact that we just continue to kick everything down the road.
Well, ultimately, the people that actually pay taxes will pay it. And if we look at it right now, what's that number? There's a crazy number. Something like the top 15 or 20% pay like 80 or 95% of all taxes. So that's, come on.
And I think when you go one step further, you look at and again, they always refer to the top 1%.
Yeah.
And what is the top 1% pay of that 80 or 90%? It's probably
way up there. Is it like 70%?
It's probably in excess of that, maybe closer to 80. And the fact that there's obviously there's a lot of rhetoric, a lot of discussion. Harry, I think you said it right. Again, sending up these trial balloons to kind of figure out, what's going to stick and what's not. And but the year end is approaching very, very quickly, and obviously we know what happened with healthcare, and I think it's terribly important that something gets accomplished before year end. And I've seen and heard there's also a probability that the corporate tax rate might be worked on before year end, and then they might delay the individual tax rate reductions as we get into 2018. So so don't be surprised if that happens as well. But I think the fact that there's discussion every day is important. Our friends down in Washington need to stay focused on what is being accomplished or hopefully being accomplished. So, Harry, Kirk, thank you both very much I wish your wide range of listeners could watch you too in the studio, because
I blew up.
It's very.
I blew up as big as my iPhone would let me. My screen name with number 1 next to it.
It's just kind of a.
Kirk and I are dying. And Chuck, I got to give you credit though. You wanted to crack up.
No, I didn't. No.
You paused and you kept going, and that's the sign of a pro. I'm proud of you, Chuck.
Thank you, Harry. You need to keep you need to keep your eye on the ball so you don't get hit.
I am really proud of you. And Chuck, yesterday wasn't disastrous, but it was a little bit of a down day, and it was a little bit over this taxes stuff.
Well, but if you take a look at what happened, up until we got to yesterday, look at Friday. We don't like to talk about one individual day, but Amazon, Alphabet, Facebook, Apple. The FANG stocks, took it back, so to speak, and we had a very, very good week. The S&P, the Dow. Were both up. The S&P was up 0.2%. The Dow was up 0.5%. The Nasdaq, clearly the winner there for the week. But if you look at the indices, we're not trying to wish the year over, certainly, but being up, anywhere from 15 to 20%, I don't think anybody is disappointed. And the fact that what is happening overseas, because I think a lot of us lose sight of what happens internationally, and we're always so focused on domestic issues and what is happening here with our economy. But the fact that the Euro Stoxx 50, which is the 50 largest stocks in Europe, are up over 25% year to date. I don't think any analyst or strategist would have made that prediction last January. I think muted performance at best. And now the big challenge, and Mike and I have been working on this for the last, started about a week ago, is fourth quarter. We always look at doing some potential tax harvesting as you have realized gains on the books.
That's going to be a lot of people this year.
From closed transactions and capital gain distributions. Some of the mutual funds out there are paying capital gain distributions anywhere from, they represent 8 to 15% of net asset value. So you don't want to particularly sell the fund, perhaps if it's the right position for you. But one of the biggest challenges that we have right now is to be able to do some tax harvesting. There's just not a lot of unrealized losses.
Because people have had a great year. Chuck, is this evidence, this is regardless of anyone's politics, because Chuck's show is never about politics, but is this evidence that if government gets out of the way and puts in some very business-friendly and citizen-friendly type policies, this country has such phenomenal potential? I think it's no accident that the changes that were made, that could be made at the executive branch level through executive fiat versus waiting for legislation, which has been, fairly hopeless, has really created the atmosphere for what we've experienced.
Well, you look at regulatory reform. The fact of the matter is that even though healthcare is not, has been tabled, tax reform is anybody's guess, and those were, two very, very big initiatives. You want to add a reg, we're going to cut two. And
love it.
And even prior to the election, the economy was starting to get on firmer footing. And now, so what happens is we've been basically a year at it, and the biggest fear I think that all of us have in the world I work in is that after you print a good quarter, you now have comps that you need to use for a year later. So when you look at Q1 2017 versus Q1 2018, the bar keeps getting raised higher and higher. So at some point in time, do you get to the point where you sort of cross over and you're not going to be able to match those potential earnings? So, but that's anybody's guess. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and make projections where we're going to be, 1, 2, 3 quarters from now, but certainly, the stock market, and we've talked about this for years, is a leading indicator, which should be telling all of us that the economy will be getting better, will not be getting worse.
Let's take our first break. We're going to be right back. Chuck Malamut continues a little bit later in the program. I know that Chuck is going to be bringing up the Fed and whether they're on or off track, and that's going to be a very important part of the program. I believe that Jerome Powell will be the next Fed chair and that Janet Yellen will be denied a second term. But Powell, who was appointed by the former president, immediate past president, appears to be somebody that would keep things going the way that they are now. We'll get Chuck's take on that and much more when we come back in just a few minutes. It is The Champion, Hurley in the Morning with Chuck Malamut. We continue.
Name a senator who's working for us? Why, that's Jeff Van Drew.
Regardless of whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or independent, the folks right here in South Jersey need someone who's going to stand up for everybody.
And that's the spirit driving the entire Van Drew team. Assemblymen Bob Andrzejczak and Bruce Land are fighting to make sure veterans and their families are not left behind, working to create employment opportunities, provide better job training, and expand college scholarships for returning vets. Van Drew, Andrzejczak, and Land are working to reduce our tax burden by freezing property taxes for seniors and to provide a $1,000 tax cut for middle-class families by eliminating special tax breaks for millionaires. Jeff Van Drew, Bob Andrzejczak, and Bruce Land, the team South Jersey can count on.
Paid for by Van Drew, Andrzejczak, and Land for the 1st District. P.O. Box 941, Cape May Courthouse, New Jersey, 08210.
Turn the world's most refreshing beer into rinkside cheers. Get the Coors Light XP app to start earning points towards one-of-a-kind experiences and rewards, like exclusive access to your favorite sporting events and Coors Light gear. Coors Light XP. Download it from the App Store today. No purchase necessary in select states. Rewards subject to availability while supplies last. 50 US/DC 21 plus only. See terms in-app and at CoorsLight.com/XP. Great beer, great responsibility. 2017 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Hello, this is Joseph Palillo, running for mayor of Atlantic City, November the 7th. Need your vote. Residents and taxpayers and voters of Atlantic City, vote for me. Haven't we been ripped off? What about us? We don't get tax abatements, but the city of Atlantic City always gets the short end of the stick. Sold the International Airport, a $400 million airport, for $11 million and thought they got a deal. Gave away the H-track, received no money for a $400 million piece of property. Gave Brigada a 30% tax reduction, brought it down from $1.2 billion to $780 million. Captain Storm's got a 50% reduction in their tax, and the property next door got down 50%. But we never get a tax abatement or a tax cut. The Walk pays no property taxes whatsoever. Gets to keep all their sales tax money, doesn't have to give it to the state. Hey, what's going on here? You need a mayor that's going to look into these things and stop the ripoff. Paid for by PolilloForMayor.org.
Hello, beautiful. I'm Amy Errett, founder of Madison Reed, a hair color company I named after my daughter. One of the things I value most in life is time. Time to spend with my daughter, time to spend with family, and the time I put into my company that's reinventing the way women color their hair. The busiest, most successful women I know use Madison Reed, the amazing hair color hack. In under an hour and for less than $25, Madison Reed delivers gorgeous, shiny, multi-dimensional, healthy-looking hair with an ammonia-free formula. You'll look like you just came from a salon, but the reality is you have more me time to do what you love. Things get busy. Let us take care of you and your hair. Find your perfect shade at madison-reed.com and get 10% off plus free shipping on your first color kit. Use code HELLO. That's code HELLO. Try it. Love it. That's the beauty of Madison Reed.
Hello. I'm Atlantic County Executive Denny Levinson, and I'm pleased to endorse my longtime friend, former police captain, St. Joe's teacher, Air Force Master Sergeant, and presently Mayor of Summers Point, Jack Glasser, for Atlantic County Sheriff. On November 7th, vote column B. Vote Jack Glasser for Sheriff. I've known Jack Glasser for over 40 years. He's a decent, honest man that has dedicated his adult life to public service. Jack Glasser will make a fine sheriff that will keep our community safe. He's an independent-minded lawman, beholding to no one but you. Jack Glasser is a good man. He'll serve us well. I'm County Executive Denny Levinson, and I'm pleased to endorse my longtime friend, Jack Glasser. On November 7th, vote column B. Vote Jack Glasser for Sheriff.
Paid for by Jack Glasser for Atlantic County Sheriff.
This is John O'Hurley, and you're listening to O'Hurley in the Morning.
Welcome back. Chuck Malamut continues. Reminder for all of your financial planning needs, turn to Chuck Malamut and the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010. Full financial planning services available for you and yours. Chuck, are we past the market update on way to Fed?
Well, let me just finish, because I think it would be remiss, Harry, if I didn't mention to your listeners the fact that it was the 7th week in a row of gains. It's the longest streak we've put in place now since 2014. So
beautiful. When
you throw in a day like yesterday, which we were off somewhat, I don't think that's a big deal. I mean, gains last week, Harry, you can primarily relate it to earnings, and we've talked about earnings and how important earnings are, and the fact that what is driving the market now are fundamentals, and earnings per share, continue for the most part to meet expectations. Now, there are a few outliers. There was one this morning, a athletic manufacturer that all of us are familiar with. It begins with a U and ends with an A, and they missed. And unfortunately, today is going to be a tough day for that particular company, but you're going to see situations like that, Harry, because not every company is going to operate the same way. But technology certainly, when you think about year to date after Friday with the big report from Amazon, technology is now up over 36%, Harry.
Wow,
year to date.
Chuck, is there any evidence that if we're in a really good economy and someone doesn't perform well, do they get disproportionately punished, or is that?
No, I think they get punished. I think you say punished.
Can you
get punished fairly?
Well,
I guess you can.
You could if. Yeah, that's hard to qualify. I'll take that back.
So when you look at on the opposite side of the spectrum, telecom, and there's been a lot of discussion with some of the telecom carriers, year to date, that sector's off 11%. Energy, as you would expect, second worst performer, down 8%. Then on the flip side, I think a lot of us are really a little befuddled in the fact that healthcare is up almost 21%. It's the second, best performing sector in the S&P 500 year to date, in spite of all the rhetoric.
But I believe it's too big to fail, so that people don't get unduly worried. They know that somehow, some way, the politicians want to keep their position, and they will not let that fail. I think that's sort of fail-proof.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I think that if you can separate, everything that's happening, not too terribly south from us, with all the media coverage, and then if you look sort of behind the curtain and look at what the market is actually doing, and the fact that if you look at earnings, it kind of identifies why a sector is doing as well as it is.
Who could be surprised? Kirk and I, we were chatting off air that the Obamacare premiums of 2018 in New Jersey are expected to go up 16 to 28%. These and we're like getting a bargain compared to Arizona and some other states where it's like 114%. So sure, their profits are wonderful when you have rate increases like this. It's built in. It's terrible.
Harry, it's
good for them, bad for us.
Yeah, but at some point in time, I think there has to be some kind of resolution, because the American people can't continue to take it in the neck.
Correct.
With these rising premiums and really very little justification behind it, I think.
Very well said. We have about 3 or so minutes before the bottom of the hour break. Is the Fed on or off track?
Well, Harry, if you look at what is happening, and this is happening, and I think a lot of your listeners aren't really aware of it. If you take a look at the 10-year, it crossed over 240. Mm-hmm. It's now, approaching, 2.5%. But, if you think about what the Fed said several months ago, they are allowing some of the inventory of treasuries, in their balance sheet to mature without reinvesting the proceeds. So the program, it seems like it's a lot. It calls out for $6 billion to mature in October, November, and December. The rest of the maturing inventory will be reinvested or rolled over into similar bonds. But so that total of $18 billion that will not be reinvested over the 3 months represents less than 0.5% of the Fed's $4.5 trillion balance sheet. That's, and if you look at that, you say, okay, 0.5% on a $4.5 trillion balance sheet. So what the Fed we think are doing here, Harry, they want to make this program as uneventful as possible, at least on an interim basis. Now, if you remember the way the program was drafted and sent out, that $6 billion per month is going to increase over time. So I guess the question is, 12, 18, 24 months from now, are we going to be making the same statement, or the fact that the $6 billion is now 12 or 18 per month? What is going to be the impact with the Fed's balance sheet and ultimately within our economy?
Speculate with me for a moment, because today could even be before I sign off. Today or tomorrow, definitely before the end of the week, President Trump is going to name the next Fed chair. I believe it's going to be Jerome Powell. I think that will signal a more hawkish Fed. If I'm right, what would that mean?
I think the market has sort of it baked in at this point in time. If you take a look at last week, there was a lot of discussion.
So Janet Yellen not getting another term, the markets, you don't expect anything to?
I really don't.
I don't either.
It should be. If she's done, she goes out gracefully. She did a good. There were some times, troubling times, I think, that we were all sort of worried, but she righted the ship, and if she's done, then I think she did a reasonably good job in her tenure in that position.
I'm going to agree with that, and I didn't think I would say that based on my feelings several years ago. But I think when you look at the entire record, she did a pretty good job.
I think particularly if you look at the last 6 to 9 months, I think you definitely need to get on that.
Now, in fairness to that,
on that Yellen train,
I agree. But in fairness to that, this is my interpretation of that. She wanted another term. She changed in the last 6 to 9 months with the philosophy of a new president. And that's, I think, why you spoke the way that you did and I speak the way that I do, because it was a different philosophy than had been before.
Yeah, Harry, I agree.
Let's take our bottom of the hour break. It's 30 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. Don't go away. It is Chuck Malamut, all about your financial matters. The Malamut Group is located simple to reach in Northfield, 609-383-2010. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
WPG Talk Radio 104.1 presents Ask the Mayor with Atlantic City Mayor Don Guardian. Every month, WPG gives you direct access to Mayor Don Guardian. Brought to you by Lexus of Atlantic City. Luxury vehicles at the right price. Come see how easy, affordable, and satisfying the luxury car buying and service experience can be at Lexus of Atlantic City on Fire Road in EHT. Watch Ask the Mayor on demand at WPGTalkRadio.com.
Hi, this is Atlantic City Mayor Don Guardian. This could be the most important election in Atlantic City's history. 4 years ago, the good people of Atlantic City chose me to lead the city forward after decades of mismanagement. In just one term, we lowered taxes, cut wasteful spending, rebuilt our playgrounds, repaved 50% of our roads, attracted new developments including Stockton University, South Jersey Gas, Hard Rock International, and so much more. We are rebuilding Atlantic City, and we're not done yet. We also need new city council members that'll work together for the good of Atlantic City residents. That's why I support my running mates, Ron Bailey, Stacey Kammerman, and Paul Tanacci for city council. On November 7th, vote column B to re-elect Don Guardian and vote Ron Bailey, Stacey Kammerman, and Paul Tanacci for city council. For more information, please visit us online at donforac.com. Paid for by Don Guardian for Mayor and Bailey, Cameron, Tanacci for City Council.
Napa know-how.
Right now, Napa Full Synthetic Motor Oil is on sale for just $4.29 a quart. Quality motor oil at an affordable price. A deal so good it practically sells itself. Which begs the question, what do we do with the rest of this commercial? Repeat the deal, I guess. Napa Full Synthetic Motor Oil for just $4.29 a quart. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
General states pricing. Sales prices do not include applicable state, local taxes, or recycling fees. Offer ends 10/31/17.
Liberty Mutual presents worry-free music moments. Switching to Liberty Mutual could save you $782 on the perfect home and auto insurance for your needs, so you can feel good about the family budget and the massage you're about to treat yourself to.
This is awesome.
Get a quote at libertymutual.com. You can leave worry behind when Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance. Based on a recent countrywide survey of new customers. Coverage is underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company.
We need a sheriff that supports our veterans. That's why we need Eric Scheffler to be the next sheriff in Atlantic County. Scheffler's an advocate for Veterans Court, where our nation's heroes receive the respect they deserve. Scheffler pledged to form a post-traumatic stress initiative in the sheriff's office. This will help our veterans, first responders, and anyone affected by a traumatic event. Mental health is an important part of making Atlantic County safer. This November, vote Scheffler for sheriff.
Paid for by Scheffler for Sheriff. Penny Wright, Treasurer.
I am Eric Scheffler, and I approve this message.
Over 70 million Americans have unhealthy blood pressure levels. Are you one of them? Introducing Berkeley Life, a 100% drug-free, cardiologist-recommended supplement to help maintain normal, healthy blood pressure while supporting energy and vitality. Now, for a limited time, try Berkeley Life free.
Call 800-982-0570.
A key to maintaining healthy blood pressure is your body's nitric oxide levels. Berkeley Life helps to boost nitric oxide levels naturally. The breakthrough is from a discovery which won a Nobel Prize in medicine on nitric oxide levels in the bloodstream. Berkeley Life includes free saliva test strips to see your levels instantly. Now there is a supplement you test yourself and can see it's working. In a consumer study, 91% felt healthier after taking Berkeley Life for just 3 weeks. Here's Dan, an actual Berkeley Life user.
The supplements are easy to take, more energy, more clarity. I don't have to worry about my blood pressure levels anymore. And the results are fantastic.
Get your free 30-day supply. Call 800-982-0570. Just pay shipping and handling. 800-982-0570. 800-982-0570.
Hello, I'm Atlantic County Executive Denny Levinson, and I'm pleased to endorse my longtime friend, former police captain, St. Joe's teacher, Air Force Master Sergeant, and presently Mayor of Summers Point, Jack Glasser, for Atlantic County Sheriff. On November 7th, vote column B. Vote Jack Glasser for Sheriff. I've known Jack Glasser for over 40 years. He's a decent, honest man that has dedicated his adult life to public service. Jack Lasser will make a fine sheriff that will keep our community safe. He's an independent-minded lawman, beholding to no one but you. Jack Lasser is a good man. He'll serve us well. I'm County Executive Denny Levinson, and I'm pleased to endorse my longtime friend, Jack Lasser. On November 7th, vote column B. Vote Jack Lasser for sheriff.
Paid for by Jack Lasser for Atlantic County Sheriff.
Hi, it's Mark Levin. Join me at 6 this evening. Now back to the Mayor of the Morning, Harry Hurley, on WPG Talk Radio 104.1, South Jersey's talk station.
We're back with Chuck Malamut, my official financial advisor. And please remember, when you need Chuck's services, he handles everything within the realm of your financial planning. 609-383-2010 to reach Chuck. You've always called this, for the whole length of time we've been doing the program, you talk about the real estate market as either the third or one of the rungs of the stool. New home sales, if I'm remembering correctly, something extremely positive has taken place in recent data.
Yeah, so if you look at new home sales, they certainly are demonstrating the fact that the economy is growing, and it's pretty broad. New home sales, Harry, hit their highest level since 2007, which is pretty remarkable. And I know that you and Kirk kind of talked about this in the last hour, but if you look at the data that's now coming through for the third quarter, real third quarter GDP was reported to be 3%. Nominal growth hitting 5.2. So both of those numbers came in higher than expected, with nominal growth reaching its strongest pace since 2006.
That's with 3 hurricanes hitting America.
Yeah, so if you take into consideration what happened with those hurricanes, I'm not so certain where that number would be, Harry. It certainly would be north of what we just
I think we might have had 5%
about.
GDP, something crazy compared to what we've been, for something at least. When I see new home sales cooking like this, Chuck, I get very excited because the markets are doing great, financial markets. If home sales, real estate are doing well, we usually cook.
Yeah, I think it was in the last hour was one of the callers right towards the end. Was it Bill that called in about Atlantic City and the number of casinos and how many are open now, and they wrecked the economy? And then I think you and Kirk kind of jumped in and basically said, well, that's really not exactly what happened. It's more, everything that happened with Pennsylvania and then these other jurisdictions, bringing on gaming, and the fact that, I think Atlantic City, real estate is now starting to get on some firmer footing. I mean, you're starting to see some of these transactions that make that seem to be a little more reasonable. And the fact that if you are looking to sell your home here, you have, I think, a better chance of getting your price than maybe 6-9 months a year ago. But so I think locally we're starting to make strides. And Harry, if you go up and down the pikes, you see a fair amount of a lot of construction. You see office buildings being built. You see car dealerships. So I think that's all a good sign as to what's happening here, within our community.
Without a doubt. So this is obviously very, very positive news.
I think so. I would have loved to see what the number would have looked like as far as GDP if we did not have the hurricanes. But the fact that you're over, that you're at 3 or better and nominal growth hitting 5.2, I mean, that's pretty remarkable. And the fact that it's being done in spite of everything that's not happening several hundred miles from us.
Exactly. Chuck, in addition to the real estate news, corporate earnings have also been very, very positive.
As I mentioned to you this, a few minutes ago, if you looked at last Friday, the big tech companies, continue to beat. I think Amazon, and we're not going to talk about a particular company, but I guess we should and need to. I mean, they knocked the cover off the ball. The stock was up significantly for the day. So we're at the halfway point right now of the reporting season. The vast majority of companies that have reported have beaten expectations. On average, right now, companies are ahead of earnings growth expectations by almost 5%. I think if we had the same discussion beginning of the year, you would look at me and you say, Chuck, that's not going to be happening. So the fact that the economy is growing, corporate earnings are in place, stock buybacks, we oftentimes talk about that. They have slowed somewhat, but companies are now using that cash in a lot of shareholder-friendly ways. From our vantage point right now, Harry, we're seeing companies put more money into resources, into hiring and modest amount of capital expenditure. So that capital, is now not given back to the shareholders because the company doesn't know what to do with it, or a company is concerned about, putting the money back into the company. I think now sort of the opposite is happening. They're using that excess cash on the balance sheet, and they're using that cash to, and hopefully improve the profitability ultimately of the company, 2, 3, 4 years from now. So that's also a very, very good sign that businesses are starting to feel a lot more comfortable with the way they can operate their business versus where they were, say, 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Chuck, one of the things that Kirk and I really chewed over was, and one of our callers, Craig, brought it up, was the tax reform. I find it a very challenging conversation to really have an accurate conversation now because there's just so much we don't know. But in terms of tax reform, how are the markets right now sort of looking at things?
Well, the markets, I think, are at the point where they want to see some action, positive action happen. I mean,
they expect tax cuts, correct?
They do.
And they expect tax reform in general?
That's correct. And the problem that we have is that we're still in that formation stage, Harry, where the left says one thing, the right says something different, and somewhere in between you ultimately maybe get a conclusion. But you have within the parties, you have that infighting, and the parties need to come together to be able to craft or draft a bill that will pass. And so you think about it, tax reform prospects still remain somewhat uncertain. But we've seen progress, on the regulatory front. That's what we kind of chatted about a few minutes ago. The president struggled to enact his pro-growth legislation agenda, but he's had a lot of success in rolling back regulatory enforcement. So financials and energy sectors in particular, seem to be benefiting from less scrutiny. But here's what you got to look at, Harry. Energy, as we kind of mentioned, year to date, not a great performer, down 8%. Financials have come a long way in a relatively short period of time. That sector is now about 16%. We had this conversation 6-8 weeks ago. Financials were barely in the black. Probably one of the 3 worst performers in the S&P 500.
Closing comments, Chuck. 2-minute drill.
So, Harry, we did chat a little about tax reform, and I kind of mentioned this a few minutes ago. What's really important to focus on? Is it more corporate, or is it rather individual rates? And
can I say both?
Well, you can, but I think that there's obviously a lot of controversy that's surrounding tax reform. And what these potential changes might be.
So if you had to pick one, would you default to the people?
Or would you should.
Or would you default to business, which would then create an atmosphere that would help the people?
Well,
you could sell it 2 ways.
You could, but so as we mentioned, there's just a lot of controversy, and just most recently we talked about the argument of the deductibility of state and local taxes. So. Taxpayers here in Jersey, New York, and California are going to certainly feel that if that does in fact happen.
But the beautiful thing about a representative republic, the representatives will stop that.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. But so think about wherever you go, you're going to hit some kind of landmine when it comes to individual tax reform. However, if you look, on the flip side with respect to, corporate tax reform, I think that's less controversial at this point in time. So as a result, Congress, seems to have a pretty good agreement on the need to reduce corporate taxes and solve the issue of these overseas profits. Like, how do you repatriate and get that money back here in the U.S.? So there's a very, very small probability, but don't be surprised if they take these two issues and sort of separate them and proceed now on a corporate tax bill before year end, and then maybe revisit on the personal side, individual side, as you get into 2018.
So get something done this year.
Yeah, and that's a
tougher one.
Look, I think that's a very small probability, but I think it would be foolish if we did not mention that.
Well, I think they have to approve something, or they literally will be tagged as a do-nothing Congress that made all kinds of promises. And it's especially challenging when these are all issues they have voted on in the past, when they knew that they didn't have a president in place that would sign it. Now that they do, it makes them not only look inauthentic, it makes them look, completely fraudulent.
Right.
So I think that they have to do something there. Bonus question, because you made me think about it. The first third of the fourth quarter is officially over today. So one of the final 3 months of 2017 ends today. How is the fourth quarter going?
I'm thinking, Harry, that the fourth quarter is going to probably be a repeat of the third quarter.
That would be wonderful.
The Fed will be discussing and deciding, and there's I think I saw recently a 96% probability that you're going to get an increase in December. So everyone understands that's going to happen.
That would be an increase probably in the 25 basis points that we've been seeing.
Yeah, and if in the Fed rate, yes, it should be. I can't imagine it be more than 25.
And then that would happen under Janet Yellen still being the Fed chair.
So
the new person, if it's Jerome Powell, the first thing he doesn't do is raise interest rates.
So as we get to the end of the year, you have again, strength in earnings. You have a Fed policy that we kind of talked about before. A fairly friendly Fed. That should continue to support equities. The business confidence levels we chatted about. Corporate earnings remain solid. What the Fed is doing should continue to support equities. And then as you get to the end of the year, as we kind of mentioned, at least on an individual and basis, tax harvesting, usually you do see some sell-offs, and when that particularly happens, but Harry, I don't think that's going to be terribly significant. Remember when we started the month of October, I think the commentary was October is the worst month traditionally in the equity markets. The crash that we had in '87, and then subsequent mini crashes and corrections after that, but October is going to firm up to be a pretty good month, barring anything drastic happening today. Although I don't see that happening.
Chuck, outstanding presentation. To our listeners, reminder for all of your financial planning needs, turn to Chuck Malamut. He leads his group, the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010. Chuck, excellent as always.
Harry, thanks for having me. See you next week.
A+ all the way. We'll be back. Pocket Kreskin returns in just a few minutes. Don't go away.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Simplify Medical's clinical trial for spinal disc replacement. Visit simplifytrial.com.
As our kids sort through their Halloween loot this week, keep in mind that the sugar in those treats can play some unwanted tricks on their teeth. So what are some of the best and worst choices for our little ghosts and ghouls? Here's the lowdown from the American Dental Association. One of our best bets is chocolate, yay, since it washes off our teeth easier than other types of candy. And the ADA says be picky if it's sticky. Sticky, gummy, or taffy-like candies are some of the worst sweets for our teeth. This type of candy stays on our teeth longer, which means more cavity-causing bacteria. Same with hard candies and lollipops. Sort through the kids' candy carefully. Allow them a few of their favorites and toss the rest or give it away. Who needs 5 pounds of candy in the house calling our name? Beware of the scary effects of too much sugar.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Simplify Medical's clinical trial for spinal disc replacement. Visit simplifytrial.com.
Vince Sarah and Brenda Taube are fighting for Atlantic County, providing the independent leadership we deserve, and standing strong with Chris Brown to stop North Jersey casinos. Listen to Chris.
I'm Chris Brown. I'm running for state senate because Atlantic County deserves independent leadership. That's why I'm proud to support Vince Sarah and Brenda Taube for state assembly. They're honest and independent. I need Vince Sarah and Brenda Taube with me in Trenton. Together, we'll fight to revitalize our local economy, protect Atlantic County jobs, and shut down the Trenton Insiders' push for North Jersey casinos once and for all. I'm asking for your support. Vote Brown for Senate and Sarah and Taube for Assembly.
Fighting for Atlantic County, saying no to North Jersey casinos. Vote Brown for Senate and Sarah and Taube for State Assembly. The Chris Brown Team. Independent leadership for Atlantic County. Paid for by Friends of Chris Brown.
Even though it's fall and going into winter, we're still going to have some great golfing weather. That's why Renault Winery Resort and Golf is now offering their winter memberships for just $495. Play any day at any time through March 31st, 2018. Your membership starts the day you sign up, and sign-ups are open now. Carts are included, and no additional cart fees are required. Plus, your golfing guests will receive a discounted rate of just $25. Visit RenaultWinery.com for further details.
Vince Mazzio and John Armato aren't looking out for you. They're looking out for themselves and their special interest friends in Trenton. When Vince Mazzio had the chance to fight back against North Jersey casinos, he failed us. And when he was asked why, he couldn't explain himself. John Armato's worse. As a committee man, Armato voted to raise property taxes, and he voted to give himself a big raise twice. Mazzio and Armato, putting themselves, their friends, and the Trenton Insiders first. Fortunately, there's a better choice for State Assembly. Vince Sarah and Brenda Taube. They're fighting for Atlantic County, standing up for our jobs, our families, and our communities. Honest, independent leadership that puts Atlantic County first. On November 7th, vote for Vince Sarah and Brenda Taube for State Assembly. Paid for by Sarah for Assembly and Friends of Brenda Taube.
Go team! Team Nissan is back. The trailers are gone, and there's so much to cheer about. Go team! Go team! It's Team Nissan's grand reopening with the best deals ever on new Nissans and certified pre-owned vehicles. Plus amazing prices on Team Nissan service. All in the comfort of our magnificent new dealership.
Go team!
Shop online at teamnissan.com or visit Team Nissan on Delsey Drive in Vineland.
Go team!
Want to know why Atlantic City is in such dire financial straits? Because of guys like Atlantic County Sheriff candidate Eric Scheffler. To the rest of us, that sound means we received a text. To Scheffler, that sound meant during his time with the Atlantic City Police Department. As the ACPD training officer, Scheffler made it mandatory that he receive a text whenever a K-9 unit was deployed while he was off duty. He then charged the city 4 hours of comp time every time he answered a text. Records show that when he answered 2 texts the same day, Scheffler wouldn't be shortchanged by the taxpayers. He charged the city for 8 hours of comp time to respond twice via text. ACPD email records show that Scheffler emailed out proposals and bills related to his own private business from his ACPD email address while on duty. Atlantic County can't afford Eric Scheffler as sheriff.
Paid for by Jack Glasser for Atlantic County Sheriff.
Hey, wake up with Harry Hurley and drive home with me, Sean Hannity, 3 to 6. It's all happening here on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Thank you very much, and welcome back. 54 minutes past the hour. If someone would like to conclude the hour and be heard, we can take a phone call right now at 609-407-1450. Coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, and we're looking forward to it. Nothing but your phone calls all hour long. Anything that you would like to talk about. Has to be a lot going through your mind with respect to the national issues, which obviously there have been a lot of developments in the past few hours, 24 hours in particular. In addition to that, everything from the race for governor. One of the things that Kirk and I did not have the opportunity to talk about, and we really wanted to, but we had call after call after call, and we always defer to your calls whenever possible. We wanted to talk about the difference between a Phil Murphy-led State of New Jersey versus a Kim Guadagno, State of New Jersey. And programming note, Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno in a Hurley in the Morning exclusive this Thursday at 7:45 will be uninterrupted for 15 minutes, and it could be our last visit with the Lieutenant Governor prior to Decision 2017, which is Tuesday, November 7th. Brenda Taube is going to join us at 7:05 on Thursday. I envision, we don't have it yet set, but hopefully one more appearance by Assemblyman Chris Brown prior to the election. And as always, Colin Bell knows he is cordially invited. He can come in anytime he wants. The other folks, Mazzeo and Armato, we're not going to be able to break at this hour for two reasons. One, I don't have it fully nailed down yet, and I don't have enough time. But last night, a very serious matter was brought to my attention, and it involves one of the candidates running for the New Jersey General Assembly, and I'm just waiting to nail it down a little bit more. But if what I was told is true, I think it's going to be not the October surprise. It's going to be the November surprise for one of the candidates, because unless we're talking about a completely corrupt media, which in some cases that is the case, it is something that even the Democrat socialist media of 2017 won't be able to ignore. We're going to be getting into that, I believe, in the next day or so. We'll stay tuned on that. Gary Aldrich will be back after being on assignment last Friday, so we'll catch up with him. You can only imagine the thoughts going through his head with a lot of these developments that are happening right now with the Mueller special counsel probe and everything that's happening with that. See it, Chuck. What I think is going to be very, very interesting is this the beginning of the end, or are we just at the beginning? My feeling is that it is not near the end. Some people in the media have been saying, and I don't know why they say what they don't know. I don't see any evidence that Mueller is showing any signs that this thing is winding down. In fact, I think if you're just being objective and you're not taking a side and just letting the facts, speak for themselves, this is the very first indictments. And we promised you there was never, ever going to be a scenario where there would be no indictments. How did I know that? I had a few people say to me yesterday, how did you know that it would be Manafort, and how did you know that this couldn't end? Because I know human nature. And I said, you're giving me too much credit. I said, these are prosecutors. These are people, the one guy in particular underneath Mueller that he brought onto this effort on purpose, because the guy is willing to do certain things that I think are completely wrong. This guy charged Arthur Anderson and certain Merrill Lynch executives. He got convictions. Some of these people did a year or more in jail, and the Supreme Court threw out the entire thing. It was dishonest. There were no crimes committed. So this is why you have to accept and treat very, very serious anytime you're in legal jeopardy. Never assume that, I didn't do anything wrong. Nothing can happen to me. We have a system right now that's so rigged that innocent people, guilty people are being let go. Innocent people are being convicted. You have to take this kind of thing very, very seriously. I really believe none of those Arthur Anderson or Merrill Lynch people ever thought they could be convicted. They knew they did nothing wrong. And they hid exculpatory evidence. That was proven. And they were convicted of things that were not a crime. There was further problems with the instructions to the jury. The jury was given some bogus definition of what would rise to the level of a criminal offense that they could find the defendants guilty of, and they found them guilty of it. And I don't have time, but I don't need to get into the Tad DiLorenzo jury. This was the compromise jury that thought, oh no, this guy could really have a hard time. We'll find him guilty of some filing just a false statement. Meanwhile, that cost him his job, sent him to jail. He died because of that. Didn't see the birth of his second child. I could go on and on and on. and he was a 100% innocent man that did nothing except do his job. And this system, it was Jim McClain, by the way, railroaded him into a conviction.
104.1 FM and 1450 AM WPGG Atlantic City. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
Open Forum begins right after this break.
The fake news is working overtime. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what President Trump just tweeted the day after his former campaign manager was indicted and put under house arrest by the special counsel in the Russia investigation, while a former campaign advisor pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI. Fox's John Decker live at the White House.
The president tweeting in the past hour as Paul Manafort's lawyer said there was no collusion and events mentioned took place long before he came to the campaign. The president adding